Good morning. Yesterday I talked about Maggie, my doggie, and it being her birthday on the 4th of July. Well, the 4th of July also holds a greater celebration for us, Tom and I. We've been here 7 years as of the 4th of July. And actually, when we got here on the 4th, that was my last trip that I made. It was a 13-hour trip, moving our stuff with 2 doggies. But Tom and our neighbor's son Craig went back for the last load. That was a lot of my husband's tools and things that went in the shop. But I count our first day here as of the 4th of July, and I'd like to just tell you some of the changes that we've made since we've been here. But first of all, when we made that last move with the doggies, then I think it was the day before. The day before, we'd been loading and loading and cleaning, and it took us 3 different trips to get here. So actually we had a lot of stuff here already. We bought this house on a short sale, and they have funny rules about short sales, and a lot of them just don't go through, but ours did. One of the rules is that the buyer can, after he looks at the place, he can back out, but the seller can't. So we actually bought this place. We had seen the outside, not the yard in the back, only what we could see from the street in our son's house. We bought it sight, you might say sight unseen, and we wanted to see then what we had bought. And so we took the first trip over. I think on that trip we brought stuff that we really didn't care whether, if it stayed here, it was stuff, if we decided not to buy it, wasn't any problem. But it was stuff that still, it would be nice to have if we were going to have it. And I'm not sure which trip we came with. I don't even think it was that one. I think it was, we just came over, looked at it. We probably stayed at Craig's house, and we saw what we had to do. The next trip that we came over with, we came with enough stuff to to have a bedroom and enough stuff to work in the kitchen, and we were here about 2 weeks redoing what we wanted to do. We didn't redo it all, but the basic things that we know would be good to do without us here, living in it. So, and then we went back. I think we brought one more big trip, and that might have been with me. But anyway, the night before or the day before, Maggie ran outside and she ran into a skunk. And at that time, most everything was packed. I did have a can of tomatoes, and they always say if you wash in tomatoes, it will stop the smell. Well, I'm here to say it doesn't. But we bathed her, we washed her as good as we could, and then we had to make that trip. I'll tell you, 13 hours, and she spent a lot of time sitting on my lap. It was a hard trip, and I could wash off when we got here. It took several weeks before Maggie, even here, didn't have that faint smell of a skunk. And so that's how we started here. But as long as we're in the kitchen, I'm going to tell you a few things in 7 years, what we've done with the kitchen. When we first got here, these, like you see the cabinets back here, they started, well, it came out over here, started, and it came along this edge to, to here, and it had about this much space underneath, or however, I guess, okay, probably, okay, as much space. This would have been the space, because the cabinets were like this. They were here, they were here, they weren't here, nothing was here. I think there was a picture or something here. Oh, when we looked at it, there was a picture, but, okay. Anyway, that cabinet, and it had glass doors. Well, when we took the cabinets out, it was dark in this little cubby hole of a kitchen over here. It kept out a lot of light. Anyway, we put one of the glass doors on that cabinet there, and then all my life I'd wanted cabinets like everybody else had, but when I got here I realized I really didn't. So Tom put in all of these that you see. He took out what was here. Oh, you probably can't see, but I'll show you. You probably don't see much of that part of my kitchen. That's supposed to be like a microwave. We don't have a microwave. I don't want a microwave, but I have cookbooks in there. And so as long as I'm at the camera now, and I shouldn't talk so loud, I'm going to take you off. I'm going to take you out to, oh, another thing, as long as I'm here, when we first looked at it, this floor that you see right here was carpet. It was sort of a light mustard, dirty carpet. So we had to pull that out. The floors in here had never been, this house was built in 1950, and the wood floors needed refinishing, so we've done that. And I'm going to take you out to what you would see from outside. I'm just going to stand on the porch and tell you what the front yard was like. And this porch was here, and Tom and I then put all of his little bird houses. But the front yard, there was no purple fence, no fence at all. It went out to the street, and it was just grass all the way from there to there. That big tree was here. There was sort of on the other side of my crabapple tree there was a redwood tree, and that was it. And all of this other stuff you see has come in the last 7 years. So roses, hydrangeas, that's a fig tree that a bird has picked, and it does have one fig on it this year. And then that's a Asian pear tree that has nice Asian pears on it. That's a little apple tree that will be ripe this month. And there's enough for an apple pie for Tom. It's an Anna apple. Okay. And the other, there was that camellia. It starts blooming on our anniversary every year, December 3rd. It was here. And that tree, camellia over there was there. That was it. And then these whiskey barrels, there's 2 of them. One was here. It had a lime tree planted in it. That one was over there with a lemon tree planted in it. And they are in the backyard now. And being that our house was yellow, I'm going to open the screen and show you. You've seen it. But, okay. I always wanted a purple door. I mean, when I saw that the house was yellow, I wanted a purple door. And so that's our purple door, and it has a lavender and purple trim on our house. We put that there. Okay. And this room, has been a dining room, it's been a living room, and now it's a living room again. Okay, and when we put this floor down, we actually put it even in this room. Let's see. I can't remember what year it was, but Tom he had a very serious operation. It was his, an intestine twisted or ruptured or something like that. And anyway, by the time they found out what was wrong, his kidneys were failing and his heart was failing. And then they did the operation. Well, we got so involved naturally with Tom that I didn't realize our hot water heater to the house is on the other side of this bookcase. It had started leaking, and it had leaked out on this floor, and it was bubbling up. And this is a pine floor. The pine boards came from Idaho. We moved them here. When we came, the 13 hours, they came with us. And as Tom was recuperating and getting well, he went out and he cut the boards. I got all of the old OSB off of the floor, hundreds of nails, took them off, and then we put this flooring down. And that's what you see on here. And we did that as he was getting over his serious operation. So the floor is different in here. It's pine. And Tom and I did that. I think I was at least 76 or 77, and Tom would have been 80. If that was the case, I don't know. Maybe it was 76 and he was 79. I'm not sure. But us old folks did that floor. And then I'm going to take you out. Hi, Mr. Tom. Hi. Anyway, Tom also built this porch in here. When we got here, there was, what did we say, 3 cement steps down and no banister. Yeah. So did you get all that stuff taken into the woodshed?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to shut my back door. Okay, and then in our yard here, there was this patio, but we sort of increased it. And there was, probably Maggie. Probably right there was where the tree, we had this 68-year-old camphor tree that grew here. And the camphor trees are not a deciduous tree, they're evergreen, which also means that it loses its leaves all year long, especially in the spring when the new growth would come in. Then it shed all of the old growth, but never was it without leaves. So this is the south side of our house, so it was in the shade. And by the way, Tom and I put on this hardy board siding here. When we got here, it was really showing a lot of wear. So we put that siding up, and hardy board, I think, is made out of cement. It was heavy, but we did that. Okay. And anyway, the tree that was here was so large that our son Craig is the one that probably misses it the most because it shaded his kitchen, and now it warms up his house a little too warm starting in the morning. He doesn't have air in his house, AC. So actually, I don't miss the tree, although we didn't take it out because it was messy, but I could forgive it for that, for all of its assets. But it was beginning to pick up our garage, which we also painted. And it's sort of a quirky color. But, and then imagine when we first got here, the fig tree where Tom is. By the way, we picked most of them off yesterday, but that's just the first crop. So it'll continue to be a temptation. But that fig tree 7 years ago was quite little, and it didn't have figs until the next year. Around the fig tree, they had put in some sort of a little pond, with a pump, but it wouldn't work because of the continual dropping of leaves in that. So they had already found out it was defunct, and so I filled it in with dirt, and around there I planted a whole bunch of lavender. And a couple of winters ago, it rained so much the lavenders drowned, plus some other things. But no garden beds was in here, so you could look clear pretty much to the back fence. It was just open after this tree. And this tree, the limbs came down and came over. There was still limbs hanging over in this area and over into there. I mean, it was a huge tree. So anyway, when we got here, there was no little garden shed. The other thing that we had that would have been now in part of where the fig tree is and where the garden shed is was a huge pampas grass. I don't know if you've ever tried to get a pampas grass out of the yard, but it is a chore. And they say they are apt to come back in 3 years. Well, ours, we got it out good. It's not coming back. And so none of these fences, no little chicken house, nothing was here. There's a couple of things that were here that aren't here. On the other side of this, probably more where it is, there was a wisteria. And when I first saw this place, I thought, oh, how nice, a wisteria. When I grew up, there was wisteria in our yard, and it was sort of nostalgic. But true to the way things grow here, it was really growing more into the neighbor's yard. It was causing a problem, and we knew it had to come out. And it just, when they planted it, they put in a little trellis. They had no idea what wisterias were like, and the little trellis would not hold that wisteria ever, really. So it all had to come out. And then there was 2 peach trees over here, and again one drowned the year we had all the rain. We lost it. And it was really the nicest of the 2, so I felt bad about that. And the first little garden bed, it was the first 2 weeks when we came to really repair the house, we put in a garden bed, and it was this one. And this oak tree was just a little oak tree then. It wasn't in the shade so much. And so that was that one. And then the garden just seemed to grow. And this is the lime tree that was in the front yard. Oh, and these myrtle bushes that are blooming now, just about over, they weren't here. And I forget what the creeping thing vine is called. It's not bittersweet, but it's something like that. It wasn't here. And so all of this has come in this 7 years, but we like it because it helps shade our chickens. And this is a lemon tree that Craig had given us. And before we knew we were going to buy this place, but the lemon tree that was in the front yard is the lemon tree over there. And then there was an orange tree here. And we thought these were just really, they're gifts from our Lord that He gave us. I mean, an orange tree and a fig tree. And we were just felt blessed by what we had here when we saw it. But these are some of the changes that we've made. And when we got here, it had those original hollyhocks back there that have just grown all over. And there's our chickens. Oh, and the first year that we came, we bought off of Craigslist. We got some chickens. Then we've raised chicks a couple of years. And even one year, I think it was 79 then, 2 years ago then, we raised our own meat birds here. And I butchered. Well, Tom does the deed. I do the cleaning and the dressing and the cutting up and all of that. And so that's just, I wish I had pictures to show you, but we've been busy the last 7 years. And I just am so thankful for this place. I just am overwhelmed how our God has supplied. So that's my story of our first 7 years. We'll see what happens next. Goodbye now.